Remember when those dank vape carts and other similar ones were making headlines? Unfortunately, I ended up with 2 of them. I purchased them online as I do with marijuana, but was inexperienced in buying carts. Well, I really shouldn't have dabbled with them because eventually I wound up with these 2 fake ones. What exactly I smoked I cannot be sure of, but I know it was synthetic. From the moment I opened them, I was highly suspicious of them. A friend of mine who works for a medical marijuana doc advised me against vaping them and said they were most certainly fakes. Did I listen? Of course not, because I'm an idiot. The first thing I noticed was the distinct taste of lemon. I thought, okay, that's not good. It doesn't matter what strain of weed I've smoked, none of them had tasted like anything else besides weed. The second thing I noticed was the chemical aftertaste in my mouth. That's when I knew I had fucked up. That was all within a second or two because the next thing I realized is that I'm alarmingly high from whatever I had just vaped. I had taken maybe 1 to 2 decent sized hits max, and thank God I didn't take any more hits at that time. My THC tolerance at the time was through the roof. I had been smoking daily for years with virtually no tolerance break and had been dabbing for the past year prior to this experience, so I was shocked by how high I felt. How to explain? It was somewhat similar to what one would feel taking a large dab with a low tolerance for THC, but only for a couple of minutes. Then, things got weird. At the time, I was temporarily disabled and had a bunch of weird diseases and was generally in poor health. Weed was my medicine to escape the pain of my disorders and diseases. Luckily, most are gone now. So imagine my surprise when I find myself galloping across my house at high speed. I had a massive surge of energy, but nothing reminiscent of weed nor of stimulants. I had been prescribed Vyvanse, Adderall, and Concerta, and was on Vyvanse at the time. I felt like I was wigged out simultaneously. It just didn't feel natural. After gallivanting around my house with little to no thoughts going through my brain, I got into my bed. That's when things got bad. My body started twitching uncontrollably and it absolutely felt like I had taken a dirty chemical. My body just felt all wrong. My brain felt the same way. My thoughts were rapid and illogical, but they were fleeting. I can honestly say I have no memory of what I was thinking at the time, but it felt reminiscent to the end of a bad LSD trip in a way. I recall Googling and reading some experiences and felt a sense of, I've really done it now. I felt as if I had permanently damaged my body and mind. I couldn't move an inch the entire time either. It's as if I was glued to the bed due to the negative effects on my body. I tried to move a limb and it just didn't work well. It felt extremely filthy in my system and I truly thought I had done permanent damage. I felt my nervous system was the most affected though. Here's the worst bit though. I wanted more after it began to fade. I thought it was only supposed to last like 30 minutes, but I didn't come down for 3 hours. Once I did, that's when I took another hit, and another, and another. It felt similar to before, but less intense, so like the idiot I am, I took another hit. The next 3 hours were very similar to the first, and I have no recollection of any of it. The one thing I know for sure is that my body felt heavy and I was completely unable to function, move, or do anything remotely productive, even though I felt energetic. It's so hard to explain, but there was certainly a combo of energy and lethargy existing as one. Did I vape more? Of course I did, maybe about 3 more times over the next couple days. Finally, I realized it's pseudo-allure for what it was and stopped for good. I have only smoked regular cannabis since then. I still have the carts. Part of me wants to send them in for testing and research purposes, but the other part of me wants to take another hit. I should probably toss them, and I hope I do. I started smoking vapes about a year ago and absolutely fell in love with how convenient it was. The flavors were awesome, no lingering scents, easy to be discreet, and hit harder with only a few puffs. I thought to myself that I may never go back to buying bud. That was until a few weeks ago. One day, I had taken a few puffs on my vape and found myself 10 minutes later having my heart pounding heavier than I have ever felt. It freaked me out and made me think I was having a panic attack. I don't really get those, but attempted to calm myself down, slow breathing and everything, but it failed. For a good 10 minutes, I thought I was possibly going to pass out in the chair I was sitting in before it calmed. Going forward, for almost 2 weeks, my head felt super dizzy. I couldn't stare at anything for more than a few seconds without feeling like I was falling into space, and I couldn't stand for more than a few minutes without feeling woozy and faint. Even sitting, I would feel like I was falling. I'd jump up and grab the edges of the table to stable myself, thinking, whoa, I must be tired or something. My ears felt stuffed or under pressure like they were ready to pop all the time. The dizziness persisted, and not feeling well, I didn't have any urges to puff, so I had ceased. After missing work for 2 days, thinking I was coming down with something or just overworked, I took the third day and had to go to urgent care. I was still dizzy, faint, had some extra sweating and a few shakes. I sat in that office, they took my blood for tests, did neuro tests, and came back to tell me that all seemed normal on my charts. They prescribed me medication that usually helps with vertigo, insisted I take it easy, that it was probably temporary and would clear in a few days. I didn't even think to mention the fact that I vaped. After a few days of not vaping, I started to feel better, only ended up taking pills for 2 days before realizing they weren't needed. After feeling better, I took a small puff and immediately felt not good. Same heart pounding, dizziness, and scared feeling all over again. Thank goodness I took a small puff. But it hit me then what the real problem was. My vape that's supposed to help me relax was fucking me up. I was aware of what was happening in the news, but thought to myself it wasn't likely to happen to me. Some people would say things like, "Aren't you worried?" And I'd shrug it off saying, "Nah," but I am now playing a very different tune. This vape black market stuff is serious. I could have died had I not caught on by myself. I'm feeling much better now. I'm not feeling the falling feeling or faint, but my head is still coming back to me. I contacted everyone I knew who used vapes to warn them and will only be using the natural bud from now on. The convenience of a vape is not worth risking your health. Please, until they can put better regulations on these vapes, stop. If you have any doubt, don't just put it away where you'll have an urge to try again later. Throw it in the trash. If you're feeling anything like what I described, stop vaping and go see a doctor. This happened to me about a year ago, and I have not touched a cart since. Anyways, I bought this cart from a dealer and the brand was liquid gold, really shitty packaging. The rod was huge, oil had a weird darkish orange tint to it, and the oil was liquidy and move around super fast inside the cart. Obviously, these were clear signs to throw this thing right in the trash can, but I was dumb and decided to use it. I had just gotten home from work and I decided to use a hot wire I made to rip the cart because I didn't have a pen. Took 2 huge hits that absolutely fucked my throat. Immediately after the second exhale, I felt an insanely intense come-up. I felt like the room was breathing with me, and with each inhale, the room would shrink and then expand when I exhaled. My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest, and I felt completely out of my body. About 15 minutes in, I was having a complete panic attack and began texting my friends. I snap texted about 15 people random shit that didn't make sense because when I looked at my phone, it was as if the letters were a good 10 inches off the screen. 30 minutes in, I was pacing around my room and my head felt a strong, horrifying wave-type sensation where it felt like my head was huge and it was growing and shrinking. 45 minutes in, I was almost crying and popped 3 melatonin in an attempt to fall asleep and escape this. My fan was on and I was convinced it was telling me something. The noise of the fan sounded like multi-layered whispers telling me things. I was laying on my pillow and felt my head rotating slowly 360 degrees. Full Egyptian-sounding melodies were forming in my head and I was having ridiculous visuals of golf balls spinning around fast when my eyes were closed. 1.5 hours in, I convinced myself I had to pee and went to the bathroom. I stood in front of the toilet for over 30 minutes and was freaking out because I thought my dick was broken and I couldn't pee. I looked into the mirror in the bathroom and began to have a complete panic attack. I went back into my room and put my shoes on and told my mom that I needed to go to the hospital. I told her about the cart and she calmed me down and convinced me we didn't need to go, and I stayed up for hours in my bed uncontrollably shaking before I KO'd. I don't know what the fuck was in this cart, but I'm convinced it was some K2 type shit. It completely scared the fuck out of me, and I will never forget that experience. Be careful with black market carts, please. I ripped TKO fake carts for about a year and a half, maybe a cartridge a week, along with some Kingpen and another brand that was almost certainly not tested or controlled. I also smoked cigs during this time until about 9 months ago when I gave it up. Not a heavy smoker, maybe 3 to 5 a day, but still, we all know how bad it is for us. I guess my first inkling of an issue was I seemed to have a slightly dry, scratchy sensation when I hit them and the occasional chest tightness. Probably should have realized these were no good at this point, but I continued to use them. I got sick about a month ago with the worst flu-like symptoms I've ever had. It lasted 4 to 5 days and I had diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, fever, chills, joint pain, and more or less bronchitis symptoms. I couldn't sleep for more than 3 hours, and every time I woke up I was drenched in sweat but would be freezing before I went to sleep. I was unbelievably lethargic, like didn't get out of bed at all except to use the toilet. I'm a very active person too, and I eat fairly well. I do cardio and lift 5 to 6 times a week. At the time, I thought it was norovirus and possibly an infection. I didn't go to the doctor, which was dumb, but I just didn't think there was anything they could do, and by the time I considered it, I was starting to feel better. Anyways, I feel fine now. Every symptom has gone away and went away after those 4 to 5 days except for the bronchitis symptoms, which took another few days. I used the carts after my sickness and haven't gotten sick, but since the warning, I threw mine out. I had 2 full carts, but I'm not going through that shit again. Realistically, whatever damage is done at this point, but my lungs feel fine and I stair-mastered for 30 minutes the other day, about 125 flights of stairs. I have a physical with my doctor in a month and will bring it up to him then. If I'm being honest with myself, the high isn't comparable to the flower at all. Although sometimes it could get me rocked, a lot of the times I just felt like I had brain fog and that I was tired. I didn't feel sober, but it wasn't the nice baked feeling I was looking for. Needless to say, I'm switching back to edibles and flower for the foreseeable future. I just wanted to share my experience. I don't want to scare anyone and I have no agenda, and I admit that it is possible that this was total coincidence and I was sick from something else, but I really don't believe so as I have never been this sick in my entire life. Also, for reference, I was paying $50 a cartridge for 1 gram, and my dealer, who moves some decent weight and is a seasoned pothead, was using them too. So I wasn't buying this $20 nonsense, but I guess it didn't matter. This story mentions thoughts of suicide, so if you are triggered by that material, please skip this story and go to the next one. Thank you. It was many a year ago today when I caught my first cart, a Glow, Jamaican Dream cart. Before I recall the good, note that all Glow carts are cut and unsafe and this story ends badly. Do not smoke Glows. I remember my first high on it in college. I had memory loss, a hot flash, and warm tingles in my side. Some paranoia and creative visions too. It was like a diet edible. I was obsessed, and after a near miss of getting in trouble with my school, I partied all day every day with it, meditating in the shower with Analog Bubble Bath by Aphex Twin playing. Then I went home for Thanksgiving and copped an Indica Glow cart, don't remember the strain. This time I had gotten so euphoric that I decided to tell my parents about it while high, but I dissociated and could not stop talking. Then one day my parents gave me a reality check about school and I freaked out. I had so much anxiety, my mind was loud with thoughts, I couldn't sleep for almost 3 days, and the doctor diagnosed me with mania. I went to a nearby hospital and lived in the psych ward for 6 days, treated with olanzapine. I felt much better afterwards, but some anxiety was still there. Then, about a week in of IOP treatment, my dumbass copped a Mochi Glow card and hit it twice. I felt fine at first, but then I had crippling anxiety and nausea for about a month. Life was hell. I could barely eat or enjoy my favorite video game, TF2. I then got suicidal and was hospitalized 3 more times. Moral of the story, don't smoke boof, just buy Delta 8 online from trusted vendors. Some backstory. I've been a daily smoker for about 3 to 4 months. I smoke mostly carts since I live in an apartment and I try to avoid the smell. My plug said he's got some new gas cartridges in. I bought 3. I'm currently in the hospital. The ones I bought were the Garden Family, Muha Meds, and another one, Steep Hill Kosher Kush. I can't even remember the name. The plastic cover it came in had a drawing of a hill with a sun called something Farms, not to be confused with Family Farms. Edit. Friendly Farms is a real company that is commonly faked. Only buy from dispensaries or legal states to help avoid buying a fake. I smoked them all with a homie out of a duplicart. I didn't feel shit and was pretty mad. I woke up the next morning with extreme shortness of breath, maybe less than half of my normal breathing, coughing up yellow and green phlegm with spots of blood. I was scared shitless. I drove myself to urgent care, and I didn't sit in there for even 10 minutes before they rushed me to the ER. I guess my blood oxygen levels were 78 to 80 and only would raise to normal levels 94 plus by laying down and getting oxygen. I've currently been in the hospital for a day now being treated, but even after steroids, breathing treatments, etc., my oxygen levels still won't go over 80 without oxygen. Please, any new smokers reading this, do your research before you buy carts. Most plugs are only out for money and don't care about their customers' health or well-being. Only buy from dispensaries because you never really know what you are getting. Please be safe out there.